There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks, I'm Matt, and Bruce isn't here. Yeah, this is our little buffer week. I told you on my monthly review, and I think we may have said this on the last Prince of the Universe episode, but we are going to be reviewing the Silo series by Hugh Howley soon enough. When I say me, Bruce and Steven, my old roommate, who is here for the Wheel of Time series, he'll be coming back, and it'll be really fun. But until that time, we need a buffer week to get things read. Now, these two guys may have already got it done. I don't know. I haven't heard from them yet, so that means they're not done yet. But they probably will be done sometime this week. Me, as you know, I love to read, and I'm a very fast reader. However, it's been busy, folks. And I don't know if I'm going to make it to next week. I don't know. I'm going to be huffing it. But it is the first book is a little bit bigger than I thought I remembered it being. And I'm not chomping my way through it as fast as I thought I would, just because it's just been a very busy week for me. And the books didn't come in until Thursday. I got the paperback books this time, just to kind of read the books. They're mainly ebooks, but anyway, I'll get into that when we do our review. I'm getting the paperback books this time because I wanted to read through them. However, I had to wait a couple of days, and I was way behind. We knew we had to do a buffer episode. Bruce and I were racking our brains over what that buffer episode could be, and then I came up with the idea today. This morning I did. I was going to talk to him about it because he's a big fan of these comic books too, and I couldn't get a hold of him. So I'm going to go ahead and just do my overall review and thoughts for the Bone comic book series. Now, before I get into that, just a few things. As you know, I do like to ramble a little bit before starting these reviews. So here comes my first ramble. First off, my hair is long. Yeah, you probably know that from seeing the videos, but no, I mean it's getting in my face when I bend over or look down or something, and that's annoying. And whenever I'm working, I was packing up all of our Christmas stuff earlier this week, or last week, I guess. And hair just started getting in my face. I have to keep throwing it back just to move boxes and stuff. It's getting annoying. I can put it in a nice little rat tail right now, but so it's not ponytail length yet, I guess, a little bit. But I don't know if I'm ready for that yet, but pretty soon I'm going to have to start doing that. The second thing, snowing. Yeah, that's kind of big for me. Big for Louisiana, too. Rarely snows. We'll get maybe an inch, maybe two, but that's about it. Now, I was told by everyone, and I was there, but I just don't remember it, that in the year 2000, it snowed 6 inches, is what I was told by everyone. I remember it snowing. I remember it being deeper than I'd seen before, but I always thought just a few inches. I never thought it was 6. But everyone says it's 6. Now, this one was at first supposed to break that record by 11 inches of snow, and we wouldn't know what to do with 11 inches of snow. But right now, I would say there's about 2 inches, and it's still falling, however, very lightly now. So it may have just tailored off. I don't know. If it may still snow, how deep it's going to be, it's not going to be more than a foot. It's not going to be more than 6 inches either. But I guess a big snow. And that means that we're going to go outside and throw snowballs at each other for a little bit because it's going to melt later on that day or turn into hard ice. We get a lot of hard ice freeze-overs. We get that more than we would get just snow. So when snow comes, it is very rare. But yeah, snow. I think the last time it snowed, and I could be wrong about this, but I think it broke a record because it was an early snow. Usually our snows are in January or February, but this one was in November, if I recall one time. I don't remember. It's like snow doesn't mean much to people who have it every day, and some of you probably from up north are laughing already, going mad. I'm looking at 27 inches of snow, but here we just don't see it that much. So we're going to build a snowman with the girls? No, my wife said she'd let them go out there and play, maybe pick up some snow and throw it around or something. I don't think the girls will know what's going on or what they'll be doing, but it will be fun. We'll take a few pictures of them in the snow. But yeah, it's a snow day too. Now, shockingly enough, I haven't heard of schools closing. That's because a lot of schools are doing virtual now, and they figure, why close? In fact, the place I work usually would be closed at this time, but they said, hey, if you're working remotely, you're still working. Everyone else, meh, we'll tell you tomorrow. Everyone has to come in. So working remotely has its drawbacks now. Means snow days are not off days anymore. Even though I remember I always had the option to work remotely from my job here. And when it snows, that means nothing for me. But the rule is, if my site's down, then I can shut down for the day. That was the old rule. Now you're all remote, so unless your internet goes down, you're working. That's what makes it different there, I guess. But so I guess snow days, and to be honest, I only know of two, maybe all the colleges, but I only heard of 2 colleges shutting down. But they said that all of their classes will be remote today. It will be remote on today and tomorrow, maybe, or something. I don't know. So it's not hurting anyone. So, gone are the days where weather impacted whether you go to work or school. If that sounds kind of weird, it's kind of life we've lived in now. And that may be, maybe a permanent thing. It's like, hey, so you can't come into work? Okay, just log in from home and you can do your work that way. It seems like that's how it's going to go, which is neat. It's kind of different there. It's the changing of the times there, they say. Other than that, though, let me just go on and get into it. This is a comic book series I've spoken a couple of times about. I realized, and I kind of looked through, especially in the podcast, but just in videos in general. Besides talking about how good it is, and I've talked about the main book a lot, so I'll kind of gloss over that one a little bit because I have talked about that one a lot. But just the series as a whole, that it's really good, and that we've never talked about this. This is really weird because Bruce was the one that showed me this, and you've heard, this is the part you've heard. Bruce is the one that said, hey, you need to read this book called Bone. Bone's a book written by Jeff Smith. Stars Foam Bone, who is the cartoon white-looking character on the front cover. If you look up anything on Amazon or Google or whatever, you'll see Foam Bone. And his brothers, Smiley and Phony. And then the adventure that they have. It starts off where I don't think I'm going to give spoilers here, but it starts off where Phony is kicked out of the town. I think he was mayor or something, but he swindled the city or something, and he's a money-grubbing swindler. He's a lovable guy in a way, but he wants to make that money. He bows to the almighty dollar. So he's a little bit of a scoundrel. Smiley is, from what I can tell, the oldest brother, if I recall, or middle brother, and he's the one, he has a little derby hat and a cigar, and he's just carefree. He's kind of dumb, too. But he goes along with Phony's, schemes, whatever they are. And, he also is good he's got a good heart, and he's good with Foam Bone, too. And they all are. They all love each other, as brothers do. But anyway, they get kicked out. They're wandering through a desert, and then they get lost. And push comes to shove, they're pushed into a medieval world, kind of like Lord of the Rings. And again, I know I've talked about this in previous videos or podcasts. I can't remember. So I'll be kind of brief when I talk about the main book. But when he had told me about this, I remember when this comic book came out, it was really big. I didn't understand why, because I didn't even, to be honest, I never even cracked the cover because I thought, it's just about a cartoon character. But the medieval art is pretty good. The artwork's very good, actually. But I just couldn't get over. I was like, this can't be that good. And everyone kept saying, oh, this is so great. It's like Lord of the Rings great. I was like, nothing's Lord of the Rings great. I'll be honest. This is Lord of the Rings-esque great. It really is. It really is worth your time. If you have a library, that's probably where you want to go and get this, unless you want to buy it. You may want to just buy the omnibus. You can still buy it. It's a pretty thick omnibus, but you get everything, and it comes in, and it's such a good read. I think at this point, I've read it 3 times through, and I'm going to read it again in my lifetime. I will read it again. I really hope to read it to the girls too, because it really is family friendly. There's a lot of humor. There's some scariness. There's some twists and turns. There's some big reveals of what's going on, because this is a world that has a history. Now, on top of that, again, I'm going to try to avoid spoilers here, but I am going to give some, I guess. But mainly this will be spoiler free. So if you haven't read it before, you feel safe. Don't worry, I'm not going to ruin that much. Okay, about an average review of my expanded universe. That's what you can expect. I'm going to just give the overall synopsis, but kind of keep the details hidden because there's a lot of good details here. I mean, there's let me just say about some of the characters. There is Thorn, who is a young girl who kind of has this power over what's called the dreaming. And Phone Bone encounters her. They all get, I should mention that the brothers get, broken up after the storm goes through. And Phone Bone's kind of left on his own for the while. And that's who we're following. And he meets Thorn, this young girl, who then brings her to he has no place to live. So she brings him to her home with her grandma Rose. And they have a few misadventures and things like hobbits. Things get started. Just like hobbits and Hobbiton, things are getting wrong. And so Grandma Rose is thinking, this is kind of weird, And she has the help of another old bartender called Lucius. Now they have some kind of history, and we don't know what it is, but they have some history together where Lucius kind of loves Grandma Rose. Maybe he loved her a long time ago, but for some reason it just didn't work out. And we're never told what that is. It's this long history. Now things open up and are revealed later on about what's going on. Now that's what I don't want to ruin. But those are sort of your main characters, where the story revolves around. Like I said, there's a lot of great humor. There's a lot of twists and turns. And there's a lot of great moments. I mean, just really great moments. The comic book is engaging the entire way through, and I cannot suggest enough. If you're a big comic book reader, like I said again, go to the library. I'm sure they have the Bone Compendium or whatever it's called. The big book. It's a huge, thick book of just comic books too, though. You should read it easily. But I'll be honest, you will be hooked. It is really just an epic tale. Like I said, it's not a comedy. There are comedic moments in there, and that's good. We need those comedic moments for the story to flow. But overall, I just thought the story is just excellent. So an excellent story you get. Now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to review, again, trying to go light on the spoilers, even though really none of these are that big. None of these are big spoilers. But I'm going to tell you about all the books that take place around this story, because Jeff Smith wrote quite a few. Now, to my knowledge, he is done. He's done doing this. Now, he said this, once, twice before, and he's come up with a little short story here and there. I mean, very short. Nothing too big. So it looks like he may be done for good, but to be honest, if he wanted to go back and put pen to paper and dip back into the world of Bone and give us more adventures, I'm there. I'm there every time. I love it. So I'm going to do this, of course, in chronological order as best I know how, because that's just what I do. And I like doing these book reviews. I know I did all the ones on the Highlander books and everything. A lot of y'all really like that. I think I'm the only one to review those books. Some people have suggested I start doing this with Indiana Jones. No, I'm not going to ever get, for one moment, I think the total was $400. I could have gotten everything. I mean, we're talking comic books, children's books, the regular novels, everything. It's really cheap. I mean, right now, if I was to track it down, maybe $600 to $800 now. I don't know. But I remember I found a complete set. It was like $400, I think. That's not counting shipping. I can't remember. But I was like, ooh, well, that's not bad. But then I thought, I didn't want to spend $400 on Indiana Jones. I like Indiana Jones, and like I said, I read the first 2 books, and they were so-so. They weren't bad. They just weren't the best either. They weren't engaging. But then later on, I was told that the Genesis Project, or whatever it is, where he goes to find Noah's Ark, is the best one, and probably the best one to start on. And I never read that one. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if they're at my library, maybe I should pick them back up and give them another try again. That may be an idea to do. But I don't see myself pushing through everything, especially being a collector of Indiana Jones Expanded Universe. Even though it's not as big as the Star Wars Expanded Universe, there is an Indiana Jones Expanded Universe out there. Anyway, I digress. So if you haven't read the Bone book, you need to read it. If you have read Bone and you're thinking, wait, Matt, there's more? Yeah, let me tell you what else is out there. In chronological order, the next one would be Stupid, Stupid Rat Creatures. Now, anyone who knows the title of that, who's read the book, knows what the title of that means, okay? There are these two they're called stupid rat creatures. Well, they're called just rat creatures. They're gigantic rats, with claws, fangs. They talk, and for some reason they talk with Russian accents, which is really friggin' hilarious. They call each other comrade and stuff, and it's really funny. But they're stupid, they're just stupid little beasts, and they're trying to eat the bones. And so the bone brothers or whatever. And they eat small critters and everything. People fear them, a race of rat creatures. But some of them are really, really stupid. And so that's kind of, it's off of a joke where there's some, again, I don't want to spoil it, but Phone Bone yells out, "Stupid, stupid rat creatures," like he can't believe they're so stupid. And it's really a funny moment. But anyways, that's what the title is. This takes place, oh gosh, I don't know if they ever say, but hundreds of years ago, or generations ago or whatever, when the first Bone, Big Johnson Bone, yeah, that's the name. Yeah, ha ha ha, I get it. Big Johnson Bone. But he's like a frontiersman. Think Davy Crockett. He's got the coonskin cap on. He's got the little gruff on his chin, and he's just a rootin' tootin' son of a gun, and he's friends with some of the critters. And he finds his way into this mythical, magical land a long time ago, back before the Bones ever found it. And he's someone that people tell big, tall tales of. You don't know if his stories are true or not. But he's a rootin' tootin' son of a gun, and he ain't scared of nobody, and he's tough to the max there. And it basically just explains. You see, in the regular Bone series, these rat creatures don't have tails. When they're young, they have tails, but then they have to chop their tail off when they get older, and that's when they become an adult. You're like, well, why? Not that anyone was asking why that's the case, but later on, you think, well, they answer that question. Why do the rat creatures cut their tails off? And of course, yes, it has to do something with Big Johnson Bone later on. It's a fun little story. It used to cost a ton of money, but I think they've reprinted it now. Back when I was searching for it, you couldn't get it cheaper than $75. I remember I found one somewhere for like really cheap on one of these dead-end comic book shops that really didn't know what they had. They were selling it for like $30 or whatever, a little bit over cover price or whatever. I was like, done, But I think you can get it even cheaper than that, if I remember right. I can't remember. I didn't look up any of the price of any of this, so if it's rare, I'm sorry. Is it worth getting? No, not really. It's got one little joke there, and they go with it. And there's some okay, funny scenes in it. Big Johnson Bone is not an interesting character like, Phony, and Smiley Bone are in the base series. Phone Bone's a guy with a heart of gold. He's a little goofy at times, a little nerdy at times. Smiley's funny because he's always trying to do get-rich programs. I'm not Smiley. Smiley's funny just because he's kind of dumb himself. And he's kind of good-natured. And then you got Phony Bone, who's great on his own because he's kind of greedy by nature. But Big Johnson Bone, just a big talker and, big frontiersman and whatnot, and man's man. And it comes across kind of boring, to be honest. But anyway, Stupid, Stupid Rat Creatures. If you're doing this in chronological order, is the first one you should read. After that is Rose. The artwork on this is horrific. It is terrible. It's the worst out of all these. I don't know who drew it, but it wasn't their regular guy, and it's awful. It's hard to look at. However, if you want to read the story of how things came about, like how, the origin of Grandma Rose is what it is. It's Rose it's her as a young woman, and it tells the tale of her and Lucius a young Lucius is in it. Basically, it tells you why they split apart, why they're kind of not lovers anymore, and they used to be for a little while, but they aren't now. It talks about how this world got messed up anyway. The Dreaming got infected with the Lord of the Locusts. The Locust is the bad guy in the regular series, but you find out how that came about because they kind of tell about how Earth began. Started with Mim the dragon, and all the other dream dragons had to team up against her because the Lord of the Locusts crawled into her ear and made her insane. Now, again, no spoilers here because I think that's pretty well known in the Bone mythos. But and they may, I think the Red Dragon in the Bone book explains all this late in the series. But here you get kind of a full story with pictures and everything, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. They give you that, and then they give you the story of Rose and what happened with her and Lucius, and, you know, a few other affairs are tied up because there's a few other things. I'm not going to say anything, but if anyone knows one of the biggest spoilers, like who is the prophet of, it has to deal with the prophet of the Lord of the Locusts. That's all I'll say. The prophet is that the prophet's origin story. The evil one who whispers and listens to the Lord of the Locusts, that person's origin is kind of pulled into play here with Rose and Lucius because they're all connected in a way. And the story, I remember, was pretty good. The artwork, horrible. But I did like the story. This one I've read, I think, twice. I would read it again just because I enjoyed it. Maybe this time I'll read everything in chronological order. I've never done that with this series, but maybe this time I'll do it. But it's a really good, since I already know I already know some of the big reveals that would be in this comic book. But this kind of goes back through some of the big reveals and kind of gives you a little bit more detail of how the past worked out, which I really enjoyed. Really enjoyed that. So that's a good one. And as I recall, this one's super cheap to get, even used or whatever. You can get it really cheap. The next one you may want to get is called Bone Adventures. This is the newest one that came out. It was collecting 2, I believe, short children's books. And then there was a third one that came out brand new that they added to it just so you'll buy it again if you track down those children's books. The children's books can cost you a pretty penny. Not that much, but a little bit. And they're not worth it. Bone Adventures is 3 children's books in one. And I mean, we're talking like children's books. Lots of pictures. Very little dialogue. Written by Jeff Smith because it took him probably, 2 minutes to write all 3 stories. But some of them have one line at the end. I think 2 of them have 2 lines at the end, and one has just a few lines here and there, and they're super short. They're meant to be children's books, like little baby children's books. And it's all about them at a younger age. Not really the best, but again, if Jeff Smith puts pen to paper and a new book comes out, I'm going to buy it. So that's Bone Adventures. Of course, kind of after the Bone series or in between the Bone series, the only one that you need to get would probably be the handbook. The handbook is basically giving you behind the scenes on the artwork that goes into it, the world built around Bone, gives you more information about it, which is all good stuff. I read it all the way through once. Probably will not do that again, I don't think. I might, but I don't know. But I did get it because it comes with a short story called The Kite. And basically this takes place in between the series where all the Bones are together at Grandma Rose's, and there's a little misadventure obviously dealing with a kite, and, Phony is trying to do another get-rich-quick scheme. That's what he's trying to do here. So that's kind of what you should get the handbook for. Now, is it the best thing in the world? No. Story-wise, you can go without it. But for me, I enjoyed that. The handbook is neat if you want to know more about the world of Bone and the behind the scenes stuff on it. But like I said, after I read it through once, I probably would never read that through again. Besides the short story, and the short story is broken up. It's a comic book short story, but it's broken up into 3 parts throughout the book. So next time I go through and read it, I'll probably just read The Kite again and then move on. But that's the handbook. Again, that's another probably cheap one you can get. Another one that came out a few years ago, I want to say 5 years ago, could have been 6, I don't know. But it was the last new thing I'd ever gotten until Bone Adventures came out. And this one was actually pretty good. It's called Bone Coda. And maybe I think it's been longer than that. Maybe it's been 10 years. Remember, this is something that I got when Megan and I were, maybe in 12 years. Never mind, I could be way off. This thing could be 13 years old for all I know. But anyway, it's called Bone Coda. Basically, it is a new chapter in Bone. It's an afterword. Consider it an afterword, like a PS to your letter here. So as the series ends, as the Bones are on their wagon going back home through the desert, Bone Coda tells you a short story, and it does a lot of interviews with the people involved with making Bone, which is nice. Again, you'd probably read that once and then not read it again. But the new chapter was a lot of fun because it's just basically, you're saving some of the magic is kind of over. Bone is the best story ever. Everything else is just, trimmings, icing on the cake there, so to speak. But Bone Coda gives you like a little bonus story. It almost feels like a deleted scene at the end, and it's fun, and I love it. Very happy with Bone Coda. If you like Bone, then you should probably get Bone Coda. Just because that other chapter fits well in with the last one. Is it a better ending to the series? No, it's just a little afterward. Consider this as the trailers are going. This is a mid-card stinger, something they throw in between the credits. Not at the end of the credits, not the big reveal. Something laughable in between the credits there. That's how I would put Coda. But I believe Coda is a very good one. Now, the next one after that is Tall Tales. I say it's after that because at this point, it's about Smiley going into the woods with a bunch of scouts, bone scouts, and little boys and girls, and he's telling them tall tales from his past adventures, and they're talking about his past adventures. So obviously, they made it back home and living back in Boneville again. But he's telling stories. He tells one of, believe him and his brothers, and the other three tales are big Johnson Bone stories, so more of those. I guess Jeff Smith really liked Big Johnson Bone, so he wanted to tell more tales. It's not, unless you really like Big Johnson Bone, which I'm not a fan of, it's not that good. Again, I'll reread this again with the series, just because it's a comic book, it's not that big. But for me, this is, if you were looking at just the ones I should get, definitely Rose and definitely Coda. Handbook if you're interested in knowing more about the world of Bone, I guess, because the short story isn't worth getting on its own. And the Tall Tales can be skippable if you want something skippable. But it was all right. So the last one is a 3-book novel series, which I was super excited to hear when it came out. I totally missed the news when it came out. This came out a few years back, and he had written 3 young adult novels. They're novels. They have pictures, splash pictures in between here and there, but it is the official sequel written by Jeff Smith. I guess he didn't want to do comic books anymore. He wanted to try his hand at prose. And so he wrote 3 young adult books on the Bone series. And this takes place years later. It's called Quest for the Spark. Now, in this one, I'll give you a little bit more information on this one. This one's dealing with the dreaming was infected by the Lord of the Locusts in the first original story. Now, some new enemy is invading the dreaming. It's called the Nightmare. Of course, it's called the Nightmare. And the Nightmare is making everyone fall asleep. Everyone in the realm has fallen asleep, and they're enslaved to the nightmare. Whatever they're dreaming of is a nightmare. There's one boy who does not fall asleep. His name is Tom Elm, and of course, he is our protagonist. He's the guy we're going to be following this whole way through. He's got a talking raccoon, because in this world, animals can talk. So Roderick the raccoon is his partner. They come across some bones, because of course the series is called Bones, so you have to have some more bone characters. But Jeff Smith felt like he didn't want to bring back the old characters, he wanted to bring in new ones. He brought in Percival Bone and his niece and nephew, Abby and Barkley. Now, Percival Bone is kind of like your little mad scientist uncle. He runs a floating blimp ship or something, and they got blown off course into this. They're explorers who got blown off course, of course, and found the land. And so it's kind of neat. The ship's a good idea to get from one point to the next. You travel faster. You don't have to have this big, long Lord of the Rings esque event like you had in the main comic book series. This can be told a little bit faster. But there are characters who do appear in the old Bone comic book, because of course they're still around. So some of them come back too, so it's kind of interesting. There's a new villain. He has other people that help him too. He has 2 stupid rat creatures that come along who are kind of, they're kind of on their own now. They've screwed up so bad that they'll join them just to get out of trouble. They have Lorimar, who is she's a shapeshifter, and she's in the story a little bit here and there. And then you have a Veniven warrior. I can't think of his name right now. I did not write it down. But anyway, I can't think of his name. I just looked at it too. But anyway, it's a nice little group of characters. Again, kind of Lord of the Rings-esque in a way, because they're going on a journey. They have to solve different mysteries and get to the bottom of it all, and get the nightmare out of the dreaming is basically what it is. Like I said, I would have preferred a comic book. Usually I'm a guy that loves novels, but because Bone is genuinely in comic book form, yeah, it was originally conceived as a comic book, I wanted these to be comic books too. Now, this is my second time reading Quest from the Spark. I've only read it twice, but I will read it the third time. It's really good. It's really good. Again, I wish we could see it visually, just because I'm used to reading Bone as a comic book. But Quest for the Spark, those, I think they're still available on Amazon. I know they probably cost about $15 each, but they're worth it. They're definitely worth it. I love all three of those. And of course, it brings back some of the characters. Kind of a sequel in a way, but with different lead characters, I should say. And a bunch of returning characters. They basically do guest spots here and there. It's really good overall and fun. Not as good as the original. Nothing beats the original. Nothing ever will beat the original. But those, I would say, is worth your time. All right, so there's my just quick synopsis of the Bone universe. I really do hope that you take advantage and check it out at your local library. Give it a whiz. If you have and you've liked it before, let me know in the comments. If you haven't and you're interested in trying, let me know in the comments. And if you've never read it and you never plan to read it, I don't even know why you listen to this podcast. All right, folks, I'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.